people who have just joined in with us, we would appreciate you telling us where are you from, and we'll just wait for a few more people to join in. Oh, working in Bangalore, great. Hi, Dabangna, and then we'll just start talking. What about others? Deepika, Debashish, Ajay, GDS Kumar, Joya, Manoj, Senthil, Yukti. Why don't you tell us? Bangalore, okay. Delhi, nice. Coimbatore, amazing. Okay. I hope everyone is back to work with a lot of things to do right now because of the great festive off we all had. So, Neha, should we start?
Yes, Divya, we can start the session. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, great. Hi everyone. Today is our fourth webinar, Brilliant Career HR Next series. That's going to be interactive and fun. And that's why we have the fun panelists also with us who are, of course, very hardworking. But we'll keep the series something which would be very much for which you can take away from. So our topic of discussion today is importance of tech to increase the productivity of blue collar and gray collar workforce. I'm sure it's very relatable to people who are working in it and for whom, and also productive for people who can understand and learn from this and implement. So let me introduce myself first. I'm Divya Kapoor. I head learning and development for BCPL, which is Brilliant Careers Private Limited. I have a personal interest in understanding people and see how research we can learn from it. With me, I have our co-host Neha, who's marketing manager at Video Careers. Without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed speakers. That is, first I would go with Ruchika Beri. Thank you for joining in. An entrepreneur HR head, enabling people to unleash their talent and skills to be successful. Always on the lookout of the great talent. She was formerly working as a director of people ops and general management at Pooch, a part of a part of Power Company. Our second speaker is Harshvardhan Khemani. But before I go to Harshvardhan, let's have an applaud for Ruchika and thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you,
Okay,
Divya. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
thank you. Our second esteemed speaker is Harshvardhan Khemani, founder of OA Happy, India's most loving gift site. Let me tell you, I buy there from too. His friends refer to him as a wacopreneur, something that translates into the gifting ideas you'll find on OA Happy. He is constantly finding ways to balance creativity with pragmatism, something that he has developed during his early stints of working in the advertising, consulting, and nonprofit sectors. His happiest moments are around bringing up his three babies, his daughter, son, and of course, Oi Happy. We'll keep the webinar informative as I've promised you. And let's start this webinar. Okay, so to all our participants, we will make sure this would be informative as well as interactive. So my first question goes to Harshvardhan. What do you think about the evolution which has taken place in tech? And how maybe, HRMS might, we can touch upon it also.
Right. So the way my earliest days of functions pertaining to HR. I remember when I was working as an assistant to my mother in her business. This is when I was in school. Uh, Functions like hiring were purely through word of mouth, right? People who were already working with her, she would reach out to them to help her recruit a designer or recruit a staff member or so some other post. Uh, Things like salaries and payrolls were strictly on physical books, and it was to be done manually necessarily, right? Those are my earliest memories of HR functions, how they were done. Now, when we come to a space where everything is online, there's tech taking care of all the everyday functions, things which were
Harshvardhan, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah. So things in HR which would take like days to get done now get done within seconds, thanks to all the HRMS systems that have come into being. So I mean, I think it's been phenomenal the way technology has really contributed to helping simplify HR functionality across industries, right? So I'm in the gifting space. I've seen it in my industry, of course. My mother's a designer. I've seen it in her space. My dad's an industrialist. I've seen it with them as well. So, every industry is having its own specializations that's coming in, and it's kind of bringing in all the kind of benefits which you would expect from an efficient system, right? So, HRMS is definitely here to stay, and it's definitely been helping businesses grow in the way they need to grow.
Okay, sounds nice. Well, but since you come from an entrepreneur background, do you still think SRMS is important to be, uh, a part of the system? Is it putting people in the right space of mind and being of use in the industry today?
See, I'll put it this way: that is it necessary in industry? Of course it is. The efficiencies that it's brought in, the time saving that it's brought in. In today's world, if you're not looking as time saved as money saved, then that's we're being silly about it. So for
Yeah.
sure, HRMS is a necessity, and it's got enough benefits to justify investing in an HRMS system, even for a company as young as ours.
Oh, that's lovely. Definitely. Time saved is money saved. I agree. Okay, so I take the next question to Ruchika. What are the two major impacts you believe HRMS has brought, which people today can vouch for, or people must follow it because of those impacts?
Right. So I'll kind of break down my answer in two aspects. One would be the processes and one would be from the people perspective side. Uh, I think pandemic was definitely an eye changer for everybody. I mean, lot of things, lot of information had to be plugged in at one source or one, probably one platform, right? And HRMS kind of, if people were not making the most of that platform, HRMS or HRIS, so on and so forth, I think they really pulled up their socks to bring everything on one platform, be it with regards to the employee data, be it regards to the information related to the organization, remote hiring, onboarding, meeting catch-ups, so on and so forth, just catch-ups with the employees, the sentiment and a mood checkup sort of thing. So I think from processes standpoint, I think HRIS really underwent a lot of change during these last 2 years. I kind of remember that nobody was prepared to do remote hiring and remote onboarding right during pandemic, and we
True.
kind of really jumped into it. We had our own sort of learnings in place, own sort of processes in place, but during pandemic we kind of really took the learnings and moved ahead. So I think a lot of organizations really made the most of these tools, especially during pandemic, if they were not making the most of it, even with regards to the payroll processes as well. So I think one is from the process standpoint, which I mentioned, that HRIS is the critical aspect wherever you are, because it gives people like power to access that sort of information in tier 2 or tier 3 cities. Now coming to people as well, so I think I think it's kind of bridging that whole sort of opportunity, demand and supply sort of gap as well when it comes to the tech space. I mean, a lot of these HRIS can now be plugged into the ATS as well, can now be plugged into the onboarding tool as well. So people now can really apply online. I mean, if I am looking for a particular job, and if there is a particular job, the skills can be matched and you can apply online. You can take the interviews online as well, and you can be onboarded online. So I think it created more opportunities for people in tier 2 and tier 3 cities without even traveling to a particular place to apply in that organization. So I think it became that sort of playbook and a mini tool wherein people could make the most of it. So I think these are the two major things, people and processes. This HRIS and HRMS kind of sort of really made a huge impact.
That's quite insightful. Because, of course, no matter in which career we are or which profile we are in, we're always dealing with people. And if we can sort that people and process, it eases our life.
True, true.
Okay, going ahead, Harshvardhan, I have another question for you. How tech has bridged the gap between workers and genuine recruiters today? What do you have to say about it?
See, again, earlier when we had to recruit, maybe 25 years back, we're talking about newspaper advertisements being sent out to recruit, right? People putting out ads in the newspapers. Like I remember my mother used to do it. My dad has done it. Luckily, by the time at least we joined, we started business. Monster and Naukri kind of platforms had come in. So I think the most important thing in recruitment that we look at is identifying or having the right kind of platforms through which we can identify people who can potentially join the business or join the firm, right? And I think that's been the single biggest contribution of technology from a hiring perspective, that helping people get in touch and helping companies get in touch with the right kind of candidates to join the business, right? So I would say that's the most important contribution of technology, and I think as long as people are, a little sort of upfront about their resumes, on these portals, because we also know it's a little easy to get carried away when you're putting up your resumes, right? But as long as that's taken care of, that technology has definitely helped kind of connect the recruiters with the right kind of candidates, and it's made life a lot easier for all of us, no doubt.
That's true. And I think it has become time saving also. I guess initially there were used to be yellow pages and whatnot people used to put
Oh
in.
God, yeah.
And they used to print, 10, 20 resumes, send it to all
True.
companies, personally go,
That's
try to
true.
convince the security guard, can you please let me in and whatnot. So I
Right,
think
right.
definitely there, it just saved all the effort and money for everyone, for both the sides,
True.
easing that
That's
problem.
true. That's true.
Okay. So on this note, I go ahead with Ruchika again. How do you think tech is helping to build training programs for blue collar and gray collar? So we have done webinars on L&D and how it has been changing. So you throwing light on this would really help.
Sure. I think gone are the days wherein people don't really realize the importance of upskilling or reskilling sort of thing. And I'm not sure if there is this concept you've heard of, the golden circle by Simon Sinek. He did mention that when people really understand that concept of why you are doing this, I think they connect more. I mean, end of the day, even Apple and probably Lenovo, everybody, they are selling the laptops, right? But when you understand the concept of why, I think people kind of connect more. They feel valued. One, they feel part of a bigger system. I mean, that my contributions value a lot. And that becomes the hook for any organization to take care of the employees, be it in the form of learning and development initiatives, or be it in the form of other aspects wherein they want people to feel valued and connected, like the whole engagement spectrum. So ironically, I was just reading this report by Gartner, which mentioned that like around 65 to 70% of employees are yet to make the most of their learning related skills to the most of what they're doing in the organization, right? I mean, so that's a huge gap. I mean, if I'm learning something, whether I'm actually applying it or not, that's a different case. So I mean, these the virtual instructor led sort of trainings that picked up during pandemic, I think that is a huge piece. If we see, because now even if I see my nieces and nephews and cousin, they are signing up for those sort of virtual led sort of trainings as well. They are upskilling their knowledge, even with regards to the employees as well, whether they are in tier 2 or tier 3 cities. Any sort of compliance related training wherein people had to be there physically now can be done online. Classic example is posh, right? I mean, I remember before this whole pandemic thing, we were doing posh trainings in the office setup, and during pandemic we kind of had to do this uh, instructor led training online. So I mean, all of these compliance related trainings, even the basic sort of trainings, how to really probably apply for the banking related any sort of uh, processes, or with regards to how to really punch in the attendance as well, some or something or the other basic sort of for these employees of blue collared or white collared sort of thing. I think that has really changed to a great aspect. And I would also say that a lot of these problem solving and analytical skills, I think these sort of trainings will probably help people to go up the ladder, because I think deep down that fear of, hey, even if you're introducing that automation may lead to me losing a job, right? But if you're
Yeah,
upskilling yourself, I think then it's a game changer, because then you are learning new things, you are going up the ladder. So I think all of these virtual these virtual trainings, then the organizations doing these initiatives, build the loyalty aspect and makes people feel valued. So I think that this will be a game changer going forward, especially from L&D perspective as well. What kind of trainings would be needed, the need based sort of thing, the upskilling, the reskilling, and the functional sort of training. So I think trainings in general for all of the employees really help in the loyalty aspect and reduces attrition as well, I mean,
yeah, that's true.
considering the talent for like the huge talent for we are seeing right now, I mean, it's very important to see that aspect as well.
Yeah, also to add to where you started with the golden circle, as I have read it and I follow Simon Sinek also, there's something very important he says. He's like everyone's doing, which you said, Mac or a Lenovo and stuff. The point is, how can simply you can sell it A, B, and tell people what you're really doing. And when
True,
that why is clear, which I think learning definitely gives us.
true,
And adding on where Harvard did a research on performance and learning, where you really need to have that performance is where you're employed and learning is where you are
true,
reskilling, sharpening the saw,
true.
right? So I think what you just said is just bang on.
Plus, I think people don't know their strengths fully. I mean, unless and until you really unleash your own strengths, I think whether you learn 10 skills, whether you learn one skill, I think it won't really lead to the
Matter.
desired aspect.
Yeah,
So,
true that, true. Okay. I move ahead for the next question. Harshvardhan, do you think tech has reduced HR intervention like hiring and managing, especially for the blue collar, gray collar?
In some
Or
ways, yes.
also,
Sorry, go
if you can, sorry, also if you can focus on the retention, it has provided.
on. Right. So, when it comes to these blue collar, gray collared workers, the most important thing that we've seen is they need to feel that what they're doing is important to the
Hmm.
business, it's important to the organization, and they are valued for the work that they do, right? And to that effect, and like we've seen that that's the single most important way or single most important point we as entrepreneurs keep in mind when we are forming retention plans or we're seeing how we want to retain our team, right? And to that effect, with specifically our blue collared and gray collared workers who work in our fulfillment centers, in our warehouses, we basically have a very open communication policy, right? And we've used technology primarily for communication with them to let them know what they're doing is important, to let them feel that what they're doing is really necessary for Way Happy, and to feel respected for the work that they do, right? It's very common that when we have people who, people of this nature, who rather people are doing this kind of work, it's very easy to overlook them and say that they're just resources. But we are very clear. For us, there's nothing called human resources. They're all humans. So we don't use the term human resources at all. The resources word does not exist in our dictionary. We just look at everybody as people and making them feel wanted, letting them know that through good communication. So for us, we've used for us the basic platform for that is WhatsApp, right? For open communication. We have groups with our teams. We have apart from, so even like when I don't go to my warehouse or fulfillment center for a month and a half at times, I'm still connected with all my team members there purely through WhatsApp, right? And
True.
even for them, they don't feel like they're disconnected from me personally. So even though they're like a 40-member team separate there, and it's not physically possible to maintain relations with 40 people otherwise, but through a simple medium as WhatsApp, I'm actually able to do that very conveniently, right?
Right.
Yeah. So to that extent, technology has helped with. retaining our workforce. We for us, communication is everything, and we do that.
Hmm.
That's like the primary way we maintain the relations with our team members, which in turn helps us retain employees in the organization.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, Ruchika, adding on to what Harshvardhan was saying, do you think HRMS has contributed to work ethics?
Uh, Firstly, I would like to add to one point what Harshvardhan said. I think nothing can beat the concept of in-person rangoli. Since we are celebrating Diwalis, I would say nothing can beat in-person rangolis. I think no HRMS system can really make HRs or the employees create rangolis. Just on the fun side, I would say that hey, even HRMS IS is a tool, but yeah, in-person catch-ups and such things can't beat it. Yeah, so yeah, but no, coming to your question, I think
True.
I think definitely yes. Even as an employee, when I look back, I think that was the tool HRIS really was extremely powerful. I mean, now being an HR, vis-a-vis when I was an employee and not in that whole HR sort of thing, I do realize that why people are so hooked on to that whole HRIS, right? Anything and everything, whatever information they need, it is there, be it work anniversaries, be it any messages from the chairman or the leadership team,
Yeah.
or, or any rewards and recognition, any town hall catch-ups, whatever. I mean, that thing is there and people can actually focus on what they're really supposed to do, right? I mean, instead of uh, just asking for the information, it is right there. Instead of the notice board, here is the intranet or that portal, which is right there for you. But if I really say that how it has contributed, I think again, I think majorly the basic of the systems, be it with regards to the leave, the PTO sort of thing, or anything and everything, the transactional sort of thing. And two, the game changer again from the performance management, KRAs and the KPIs, right? I mean, if we kind of have this whole aspect of the weighted thing for the KPIs and the KRAs, I mean, the performance management can also really change and could be more fruitful for the organization. I mean, if we really define that XYZ person is working on this and these are the average, I mean, the weighted scores or so much percentage needs to be worked on these aspects, I think you can easily map it up. So I think from that standpoint, I would say the HRMS has really upped the game with regards to the transactional sort of information. And from the whole employee life cycle, a lot of these predictive analysis can also be done. I mean, a few years back when we hadn't really realized that how the attrition would really play up, we kind of sort of worked on the whole employee life cycle, that predictive analysis, if there is a particular employee who's kind of moving from one department to another very frequently, who's kind of taking a lot of PTOs, or probably is not really fit in one role. So, what can we do to really enhance the whole experience? Could be possible that maybe this role is not for this person. Maybe the person is not sure yet. So, I think this whole employee life cycle can also be really managed right from the time
Hmm.
somebody joins till the time somebody exit the whole system as well. Because I mean, a lot of these boomerang employees can also be really
Yeah.
tapped into. So I think if the HRIS is really robust, I think you can really do wonders with that. So
Also, because it pings to the employees, this is your learning time when you
true,
club your learning and development into it,
true.
and you're telling that every month or every couple of months you need to do this many of courses for your own development. So they also feel that there is a company focus, not only getting work out of them, but
Right.
also developing them 360 degrees.
Right. So for such initiatives, we actually worked on in the performance appraisal cycle. We kind of in our form itself. I mean, we do ask what kind of courses would you want to learn? What will really help
Right.
you to move up the ladder or to a different level? And then there are these courses which managers recommend. So I think based on that, we kind of make it as a part of their whole goal thing, and the knowledge
Hmm.
sharing as well. Whether they're actually sharing the knowledge with team members or not, whether they're actually applying it or not. I know it's a long journey. I would say you really can't still work on that whole aspect, but I think it's a start. I would say, yeah.
Internally in Quest, we have work as our HRMS and also grow as our part where we keep putting the learning and development. So I think that way we try to manage over 3 to 5 lakhs of people engaged there through that tool
Right.
also.
Yeah.
Okay, going ahead, Harshvardhan, uh, can you share two instances where you think the tech really, had a very moving change in your life while you were managing people, blue collar, gray collar? Any two instances? Because, such instances always help us in learning.
Right. I think the biggest, most prominent case which we had seen, we were having a lot of difficulty with getting our team members to take responsibility for the work that they were doing, right? Um, and I'm talking specifically about our team members in our fulfillment center and our warehouses, right? So, and we've always motivated our team saying, what you make is not just another product. You're actually making delivering some happiness to somebody who's ordered a gift for a loved one, right? So always keep that in mind. Um, so using that same concept, what we did is we actually integrated a small piece of tech within our order fulfillment system, where the person who was making a product in our fulfillment center or in our warehouse, or even designing a product, we started having that person's name mentioned, saying that this particular gift was made by so and so person, right? And it's incredible. Within 3 days of implementing that system, we saw two major things happening. One, the productivity of my team members went up because they were suddenly like, oh, I am making this, my name is in print, this is amazing, I'm actually like getting credit for what I'm doing. And the second thing was that they actually in turn started feeling a sense of ownership for their work. They started realizing that, okay, what I'm doing actually matters more than what I had initially imagined. And they actually started putting in more effort, right? And their efficiency is increased in turn, right? Once you get them to put their heart and soul into their work, it's incredible the kind of efficiencies that come into their work, right? So someone who is making, say, 50 products a day, if their heart and soul is in the game, they'll actually, in the same time, without compromising on quality, we've seen they can up their production by at least 3 times, right? So I think that's the single biggest instance that comes to mind of how we were able to use a very simple piece of technology to improve productivity within the team, to improve their morale as well to a large extent. I think second is like I was talking about WhatsApp earlier, that just having for them, their CEO sending them a birthday message or just an anniversary message whenever we come to know, sending them a simple message on WhatsApp. That's it. Just an audio message that says happy birthday, Sujata, or happy anniversary, Ramesh. More than enough to just keep them going and to keep them motivated about working with you.
Yeah, especially, this happened in one of my meetings also because we have the whole HRMS tells whose birthday is today and everything. And one
Right.
person started wishing, and the other person is saying that, no, my birthday is in January. So maybe she felt it wrong or something, but it's good for the laughter and keeping that energy going. That's
Of
where
course.
we
Yeah.
keep HRMS helps us in bonding really well in the teams also. So
That's
rightly
true.
said, Harshvardhan.
Right.
Okay.
And just, since you're talking about birthdays, what we've also seen is having like photographs. When we take photographs about all these celebrations that happen, it's very common that obviously, we have celebrations for every team member's birthdays. Photos going up on the group. Oh my
Hmm.
God, it's incredible how much they love it. Right? It's
Yeah,
such a simple thing for us when we think about it, but for them,
true.
it actually means the world. And so when
Yeah.
when these photos go up, and if me or my co-founder put up a message on the group saying, these look nice, happy birthday again, or you should have more cake on your face. There's very little cake on your face.
Yeah,
Just those simple, silly messages like that just makes their day, and they are
true,
like over the moon, and they're just happy all over again, and they're back to work refreshed the next day.
true, true. We all enjoy
Yeah,
birthdays, no matter which age we
of
are.
course. Of course.
Okay, taking this ahead, Ruchika, over to you. Does tech needs change when it comes to frontline employees? Do you think there's some specifications which should be taken care when, especially we are taking care of blue collar and gray collar people?
So, see, to be honest, I think again, classic example of the pandemic, that in the recent time we have seen we all have switched to the newer sort of the digitalization, whether we had to book the doctor's appointment online, whether we had to probably buy any sort of medicine. So I think the newer ways of the technology, we have really shifted and evolved to very, very quickly. I would also say that a lot of these doctors from tier 2 and tier 3 cities also have kind of, the frontline workers have really upped their game. I mean, with regards to, I mean, setting up their online shop, right? During pandemic thing. So I think a lot of the technological advancement has played a huge role in terms of giving platform to these people from different parts of India, reducing that sort of barriers to entry, because now everybody has the access to it.
Yeah,
Other thing, the other day I was also reading that there is this whole lot of probably stress that is experienced by the frontline workers, and in India, I think 41% of the people in the frontline space are experiencing stress because of this whole trivial and the transactional things that really takes away a lot of their time. So I think when people are also moving to streamlining the processes through through these small changes in the technology, I think that really changes the impact what a frontline worker can bring into the whole system. The other thing also, I think there is this whole thing called cobots, wherein the coexistence or cooperation sort of thing, wherein even robots are performing the surgeries and probably helping the frontline workers with regards to doctors as well, or any sort of thing. Now we see the drone delivery as well. So I mean, a lot of these technological advancements are kind of bringing that sort of impact that, hey, there are these things that can be managed in terms of the automation side, and you can still do a lot of other things. So I think a lot of these things are managed, and plus I think 56% of probably people are doing a lot of things without formal training. Just imagine that if there is a formal training these frontline people undergo, what sort of change they would bring in. I mean, just without a formal training, they're doing some really great work. And now, after the formal training, I think it will definitely create a ripple effect. So I think, yes, we have started to think a lot how we can bring changes in the frontline to that whole industry. But I think it's a long way again. I mean, yes, we are seeing those changes with regards to, be it pharmacy, with regards to other such platforms or these startups who are really bringing that change. But I think it has given a lot of people opportunity to work in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, that demand and supply sort of thing.
also, if you could add on from your, Harshvardhan shared his experience of two instances where he has actually witnessed, where he says the tech has really contributed. What would be yours?
Uh, I think two, I would say one with regards to the virtual recruitment and onboarding, and the other with regards to during pandemic. I'll cover the second bit first. So, I think in 2021, wherein we were seeing a lot of impact across, people were falling sick, the loved ones were falling sick, we kind of experienced 30% of our employees, either them or their loved ones were down with COVID. And simple messages, simple tool like Slack and simple tool like WhatsApp, I mean, really helped us in keeping a check on the employees. I remember this particular incident wherein this employee along with his parents, all three were hospitalized in a different city. Parents recuperated, old parents, senior citizens, and our employee was still in the hospital. I mean, we went an extra mile to get the food delivered in a city wherein we were not there. I mean, we spoke with Zomato folks. We kind of worked out for a week or 10 days till the time the employee was in the hospital. That really moved the employee and the parents, that as an organization, I mean, without being there, we were kind of still around. So I think those of these checkpoints, ensuring the wellness checkpoint is done, or the mental health was taken care for the employees. I think that was a huge eye opener for us.
True.
We started to maintain the wellness tracker for the employees as well. We used to speak with the leadership team on a daily basis that the work would be impacted, so many people are down with COVID, so on and so forth. We did a lot of initiatives, and thanks to I think these tools like Slack, the community building sort of thing happened, WhatsApp. So I think that was another one thing wherein the employees felt a lot more safe. uh, they opened up. Psychological safety also mattered to them, so they started to vent out the frustration. I mean, HRs are SpongeBob's, right? End of the day, they do get to hear a lot. So we felt happy that people are opening up, whether they are just venting out. So I think we opened up that whole mechanism. I mean, on a daily basis, I opened 60 minutes for employees, that whoever wants to chat, just give a shout out to me. I mean, irrespective whether I'm bogged down with work, I will be there. So I think one was from that whole spectrum, just that inclusion sort of thing and employee well-being mattered. The other thing with regards to the recruitment and onboarding, I would say, so Punch is in tier 2 city Jaipur, and it's a product company. We are our parent company is a US company, and in India we have our head office in Jaipur. Imagine a product company with very very niche skills like Golang or Ruby on Rails, with talent war going on. I think during pandemic, we kind of opened up the avenues from people from tier 2 tier 3 cities. We kind of opened up the mechanism. If somebody wants to learn Golang or somebody wants to learn Ruby on Rails, we are doing the virtual meetup. So we were kind of, without any ulterior motive that, hey, like after this you have to join us sort of thing, we were just kind of empowering people to learn something new, and also gave them a slice of our culture, like a taste of our culture. And that's how we started to invite people to be part of the organization. So during pandemic, we onboarded around 100 employees from different parts of India. That again was like a cherry on the cake for us, because we were not prepared. I mean, imagine, like, you have to sign 100 documents, the offer, the code of conduct, NDA, blah blah blah, and now you're doing everything virtually, still doing the virtual check-in, still having the buddies for them, still having the virtual coffee catch-ups with the CEO. So I think this whole onboarding and the recruitment thing, I think thanks to all of these companies who kind of even changed the gears. I mean, Reliance Jio came with that whole again tool of the virtual meetings, right? So I think that really enabled the organizations to up their game in a great spectrum.
It is actually an eye opener. I think yeah, all of us people. I remember I was down with COVID, and I was also helping people through Instagram and Facebook finding things and stuff. So of course, especially organizations taking care, and that's when people started wanted to shift to organization where they were being taken care, and psychologically they are not being questioned when they have to take care of their own families.
Correct.
So that's definitely, I think, the world has witnessed
True.
how tech came together for that.
True. And a lot of our employees, I mean, they really called us up later and mentioned that when they talk to their friends or the peers, they do remember that how their organizations were not that considerate vis-a-vis how we went an extra mile. And that's how we also started to see a lot of referrals pouring in, because
Yeah,
people did want their friends to be part of an
of
organization that
course.
really values them. So I think as an organization, what you really do for people during the bad times, I think
Challenging
really
times.
matter. Yeah.
Yeah, true. Thank you so much. So moving ahead with the final question to Harshvardhan is, what will be the future, do you think, in the coming 5 years? I would say I'll open this to both Ruchika and Harshvardhan. What do you think would be the future of HRMS in coming 5 years?
I think Ruchika, you'd probably be the better person to answer this since you have interacted a lot more with HRMS. So why don't you take it up?
Sure. So I think right now we have just touched the scratch the surface with regards to HRIS. I mean, still, I mean, till date we are yet to make the most of this whole HRIS thing. I think going forward, especially from the performance management side, one, I'm seeing a lot of changes happening with regards to the employee sentiment or the engagement surveys that we all could roll out. So I think if the companies are able to make the most of that through the HRIS, the moods and the mood checker sort of thing for the employees, how are you feeling today, and what organizations can do post knowing that, that really impacts the employee life cycle. The third bit also is from the exit perspective. So there is a lot of data, but what are we doing with that data? I mean, if somebody is going out, are we seeing a pattern? What is it that organizations can really do? So I think right from the time when somebody joins to the time when somebody really exit the whole system, I think exit plays a really important role, because when somebody moves out of the system, they really talk wonders, right? I mean, we have seen 4 or 5 employees who left during pandemic and again joined now.
Joined in.
So that really speaks volume, that what sort of uh, culture you have in the in totality, and to what are you doing with that data, because we already have niche skills, we don't find people so easily. So I think it's a boomerang sort of thing that played up. So I think three things: performance management, overall employee, how employees are being valued, the mood
In
checkers.
employee life cycle.
Correct. And the third is the whole exit formalities, how well you take care of that aspect. And lastly, I would also say is that if you make people part of that whole HRIS or probably that whole tool, what is it that they would like to see? Because we probably might think from in our own manner that from HR standpoint, but end of the day, what an employee would need, I think, if we kind of sort of do those
Understand them.
focus
Yeah,
group,
need analysis.
correct, focus group sort of discussion or focus group sort of checkpoints, I think that will also really help the organizations.
Rightly said. And I totally agree that a lot of HRMS actually lacks in the employee life cycle completely and taking the exits lightly. Sometimes they are eye opener for the company itself, right? What can we really change? And rather than thinking from the top level, we should also see it from the ground level. What is it required and how can we serve? So now I'll open the room for Q&As for everyone to ask questions. And I'll hand over this to Neha as Neha will take up the question answers. Thank you so much for this amazing panel discussion. And I'm sure our participants has a lot to ask and take away from here. So, Neha, please take over.
Sure, Divya. So we have one question from a anonymous user. So the question is, what are emerging trends in tech which would disrupt blue collar productivity in next 5 years, and any use cases you could give us as an example. So yes, Ruchika, Harshvardhan, anyone could take this question.
Harsh, would you want to take up, or you want me to take up? I can.
There's one, I think one simple thought for me would be see, if you look, not specific to productivity itself, but maybe with regard to a little more overall in regard to human resource management, would be just the way companies keep their team members engaged, right? I think that's the most important change that I see happening in the next 5 years, as in companies being able to use technology to, when I say technology, I think I'm primarily referring to artificial intelligence and the machine learning component of technology. So using those two key pillars of technology to really engage with employees better, to keep employees more interested in the work they do, and keep them more connected with the people they work with, right? I think this cumulatively will obviously have an impact on productivity. So I think we're going to see AI and ML really helping companies kind of figure this whole equation out of how to get employees to interact better with each other, with the top management, and also with people who are external to the company but are responsible for the company's success as well.
So yeah, I hope that answered the question. So everyone, please feel free to add your questions in the Q&A box. So we have another 5 minutes. We can take the questions.
So, I'm just going to use this opportunity since while other people come up with their questions, Neha, I think Quest is the largest private sector employer in India, right? Um, and I guess what you have, like maybe more than 3 lakhs or more than 400,000 people who are employed at the moment, right?
Yes, more than 4 lakhs. Yeah.
Right. So maybe, could you tell us a little bit about what Quest has been doing to keep employees engaged or to keep them motivated, or how you've been using technology at Quest to achieve all these different purposes?
So yes, Divya, will you like to answer this question?
Yeah, sure. I will take it up. Okay. So I think Quest has 28 companies under it, right? So it's
Mhm.
pretty large. So Monster is also there, QJobs is also there, BCPL is a different entity altogether, which has three companies under it. What they have done by and large is they have their own internal HRMS and they use work also. And of course, the things we were talking about, we also use that we are developing this happiness factor where people can actually say, how was your day and what can we do? And we keep doing the focus groups, which Ruchika was suggesting, to understand what do people require. So we understood one thing, right? Employees are being paid for what they are serving us, but we also need to do it, give it back. And when Ruchika was referring to what other companies did to take care of their employees, so Quest has its own company called IFMS, which also serves into this, and they were also ready to help their employees. So it is serving in an all over uh, way where the employee starts a journey and there is a proper compliance program online completely where you're placing it. For managers, there is a complete core L&D team taking through them different programs to keep them engaged, to make them understand. And of course, different policies being happening to take care of their employees in different ways. So it's definitely helping outside B2B and B2C as well inside, where they're bringing the right people in the right frame also. So if that answers your question, there's a lot of things which are
Yes, of
happening
course.
actually.
Of
So
course,
we
I'm
are
sure.
into most of the industries. So that's why.
Right. Okay. Awesome. That's nice.
So we have one more question from Madhukar, and I would like to direct this question to Ruchika. So this is a very interesting question. So if robots will occupy blue and gray collar jobs, what in the future will happen to jobs for these people?
Quite an interesting question. And
Yeah.
while I was reading about this whole cobots thing as well in the frontline space, I mean, no, I mean, it's not that somebody is snatching away your pie. It is that you are kind of making that pie bigger so that everybody can occupy it, right? As everybody can take it and everybody can eat from it. I'll give a very classic example. So these robotic surgeries that frontline workers, especially doctors, do, I think it saves a lot of their time from those very trivial aspects like pre-ops, pre-operation sort of thing and post-operation sort of thing. I mean, a lot of those aspects that through technology or through robots, let's just go with that, can save time. I mean, then the actual work can be taken up by somebody like me or somebody in the blue or gray collared sort of job. So I'll give a very classic example. Let's just take a Swiggy or a Zomato delivery person. I mean, if we are kind of enabling that person how to really take the orders, how to really check whether the payments are coming in time or not, how many orders did come in, how many payments have come in. I think if we're enabling the person, we are kind of making that person self-sufficient. And in a Hindi term, it will say saksham bana rahe hain usko to take up more things, right? I mean, we are saving his time instead of just racking the brains or just trying to add on more trouble for him, that how many orders came in, doing the math mentally or doing that sort of physical sort of check-in. So I think that ways we are enabling the person to take up more things. It's not that we're taking away that piece. Another classic example, I would say specifically that I think during my Bombay days, I was working with this emergency medical service provider VC 108, right? I mean, you call somebody, and I kind of realized that whole how technology was really game changer up back then, wherein you get a call, you transfer the call to the EMS provider, and the ambulance was dispatched, right? So that ways you are saving the time by reaching to the patient very very quickly, that golden minutes, right? So it's not that you are taking away the time. Hey, somebody's taking up the call, it's a robot taking up the call, it's a chatbot replying to that whole thing. No, you are just taking that critical information, saving up the time and doing the actual thing that you're supposed to do. So I don't think so that it will take away that job aspect. It will just create more opportunities to really up your game and upskill yourself.
Yes, very well said, Ruchika.
And I think, Madhukar, just to add on to what Ruchika said, the whole angle of learning and development that companies talk about, I think that will also help upskill people to, in case situations come in where, or companies foresee situations where those kind of jobs will actually get replaced by, your robots or by drones or those kind of technologies. Then the upskilling part will also help them with you know handling those bots, as well as then taking up other things which come out as a result of bots and drones handling your regular work. So yeah.
So, if I remember it right, when the AI ML started, right, I just wanted to add. So there was this Sophia robot, which was became quite famous, and people start talking about it. And actually, there was a study done, I think, 2020 by Goldman Sachs, where it says in the coming 5 years, people will need to redevelop themselves to stay consistent in this economy. Otherwise, everyone will have to switch their careers in every 2 years, except for the people who are on the ground. For example, the cricketers, or you will not prefer them on the game box, whether it's PS5 or Xbox. You want them to play, or the delivery agents and stuff. But we are seeing the drones and everything happening. Do you think there could be some way people can stay relevant other than just taking more learning? If there's any other way.
I think learning is the critical thing here, Divya. Um, because we have seen that you let's put it this way. I think Ruchika made one point which is very relevant, that one is you're increasing the pie, right? So now when you talk about drones taking care of deliveries for companies like a D2C company like ours, it's not that drones are completely replacing delivery people, right? But they're probably not. They're stopping the need for having newer delivery people joining the system when the number of deliveries within the system increase, right? But so one is that we are talking about increasing the pie, but we've also seen in the past that there are certain kinds of roles that have been replaced, right? So if you take, for example, customer service, right? Nowadays, WhatsApp has become the primary form of customer service, right? So people who used to specialize in customer care on phone, if they've not adapted to providing that customer service on WhatsApp, those guys are not in a position to continue working. So for them, learning and development is critical. If they're not going through that training phase of adapting to a different piece of technology for their work, they are going to get outdated, right? So I think constantly upping your skills, right? And also identifying that if you're good at, like, if you suppose you're a delivery agent with Zomato, right? You'll have a certain set of complementary skills also, which you might not be aware of, right? So it's up to the Zomato and the Swiggies of the world to actually help them identify then, okay, what other skills do have you got which you can capitalize on in case your job gets replaced. I think that's another way of looking at this whole situation.
Divya, I'll also add to one thing that uh, I think a year or 2 years back, we were kind of thinking to introduce that whole chatbot for the employees. And imagine, like, human resource or human capital is all about talking to humans, right? Dealing with human interventions. But what the whole point of introducing the chatbot for the employees was this whole transactional sort of information that people need. How many PTOs balance do I have? Where do I apply PTO? Where can I see my appraisal rating, the last appraisal rating? I mean, all of these things are very transactional yet very important, and does take a lot of time. Imagine if there is one HR generalist for 200 people. Imagine the amount of queries that the person would be handling these transactional thing. If you kind of introduce those personalized chatbot, doesn't mean that the HR generalist role is going away, right? That HR journalist person is probably focusing on something more, uh, I would say something more bigger, right? The learning and development opportunities, creating that growth part for the employees, doing that whole BizOps or the HR ops, or probably being that whole enabler with the leaders, between the leadership team and the employees. So I think if we do see that a fine balance is there, where the tech can play a role, and where the employees, or in general anybody's strength can really take up, I think that's the whole key.
Sounds good. That's true. Life actually comes into balance, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ashwardhan and Ruchika. Neha, I think you have a question to take up.
Yes. So Devangana is asking, during the pandemic, there were also instances where technology was used to micromanage. For example, having technologies that made sure the employees were active in front of their laptop at all times, and so on. Where do you think the boundaries lie in using tech to help employees and employers for productivity, and where it becomes micromanaging?
$1 million question, Devangana. I wish we all had answers for it.
I swear, yeah. Yeah. I think probably this can be the next webinar topic for sure, as it will take another 60 minutes. Probably a question that it's like a myth we are yet to solve, or uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I would just say one thing. I remember that since we had offices in US, and US in general has three different time zones. I mean, I used to joke with my team members that LinkedIn should have that skill wherein I survive different time zones, right? I was up at 3 in the morning, probably starting my work at 2 in the morning, blah blah blah. But I think through the leaders, I think it all came down from the leaders as well, wherein they kind of ensured that you over communicate, you draw the boundaries. They were also drawing the boundaries. I mean, they were not replying on the holidays, they were not replying after a certain point of time. That really set an example for other people that hey, nothing will come crashing down, right? No earthquake will happen if you don't reply an hour later, if you don't reply immediately, right? So I think when it comes from the leadership team, when you set the boundaries, when you over communicate that hey, I am not available at this point of time, or this is probably I would be available XYZ or active time. I think initially it will be difficult for people to get used to it, but then eventually they would really respect that you are vocal about it and you are not racking your brains later. So I think if the leadership team, you get the leadership team buy-in if they are doing similar things. I remember in one of the town halls, the employee asked the same thing, and the CEO ended up saying that don't reply, just mention it's a holiday, it's like 10 p.m. for me. We also don't reply when we go on holiday. So I think it's very important to be vocal about such things, because if you don't draw boundaries, somebody else would draw on your behalf. So might as well you draw the boundaries for yourself. So
Fully agree with that, Ruchika. And just one thing which we kind of, so for us, micromanagement also is a, like, it's a strict no for us, even as founders and the heads of our company. And what we've just tried to do is we've built a system where we care about the output that has to be delivered, right? So each team member has a responsibility for a certain kind of output they have to deliver by a certain timeline, right? You finish that, that's all, right? Now, whether you are doing that by working 6 hours a day, whether you are working from 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then chilling for the next 8 hours and then delivering at 10 p.m., if your 10 p.m. is your deadline, it's entirely up to you, right? So to some extent that has worked, or for some kinds of tasks that has worked, for some kinds of projects that has worked, right? But when it comes to blue collar and gray collar workers, I mean, they have to be on the field, or if they have to be on the field all the time, they have to be on the field all the time, right? And there, if their work has to be micromanaged, because unfortunately, at that level, micromanagement also becomes a little necessary, because a lot of them don't end up taking responsibility for their work, right? So for them, it's like, okay, if I know I'm not being watched, I'm not going to bother doing my work properly, right? And
Agree.
as long as I'm getting paid, then there's no sense of ownership towards their work, right? So for that kind of work, sometimes for some people it might work, for some people it might not, right? So a tricky question, but yeah, if you're talking about maybe for industries like maybe technology, right? Their purely output-based goals has really worked. In our case, not for technology, but for certain kinds of teams like our marketing teams and for our creative teams, output-based timelines and quality definitions have really helped to not micromanage. So like my founder and I don't micromanage their work at all. We just give them the targets, discuss it with them, set it with them. Once we have their buy-in, then it's up to them how they want to deliver. Then we don't sit and keep a track of who's logged in for how long, or what have they done in each individual hour. We don't do all that.
and interestingly, there was this article that I came across at HBR, wherein a lot of employees did mention that they like to be micromanaged. There is some sort of
Huh?
accountability that really comes along with it. And micromanagement to the extent wherein the frequent check-ins that the manager has with the employee, discussing their goals, removing those transactional blockers. So I think there is a certain set of people who do like to be micromanaged, because that's how I think they feel that they are being accountable, right? I mean, they are not being distracted or not going dilly dally. So I think it really depends on the kind of industry and the work and the profile you are part of. Because in some spaces, like Harshvardhan mentioned, you need to be micromanaged. At times you don't. I mean, here at Punch, we don't have in time, out time. I mean, we never had that system of like what time you came in, what time you logged off. Eh, I mean, imagine we have unlimited paid time off. You can take as many leaves you want to, and there is no foundation that you can't take. So, I mean, we do believe that if you are being very vocal that you are supposed to do this output sort of thing, the goals are met. What I think it's your problem end of the day how you do it.
Yeah.
So I think micromanagement really doesn't matter in some roles in some organizations. At times, it really plays a role.
Yeah, I think we all, I think just to add one line to it would be, as you guys have rightly said, till the time goals are met, it doesn't matter. The problem actually happens when the goals are not being met, right? And then you really need to deep dive, because whoever you're reporting to also has to report to someone else. So till the time everyone takes an ownership and accountability in the system, everything is sorted. Where I think comes a lot to play, and that's why I guess you guys said it's another altogether another webinar where ownership of accountability needs to be taught and trained into people.
Ironically, on the fun side, my manager never micromanaged me, but on the other side, I was this accountable buddy for my manager. I used to ask him, "Have you done this? Have you closed this?" And he was like, "Dude, I am your manager. You are not my manager." So I'm like, "No, but end of the day, we are one team, irrespective whether you're my manager or not. We have to get this thing up and going." I mean, lot is riding. So I think it really depends on the equation between you and the manager as well. You can be accountable buddy partner. Let's go with that thought process.
You are
True.
lucky. I must say that you're fortunate that you actually think of it as a buddy partner, because I have the same issue in my team, or rather the same practice in my team. I am actually held accountable by my team members for a lot of things. And recently, I had an assistant joining me who's typically responsible for a lot of my communication that goes out. And her common complaint with me is always that, Harsh, you do not finish your work on time. And I was like, yes, that is exactly why you are there, to help me finish it on time.
Yeah, I
But
think we'll
that's
probably name it accountable partner, or the instead of micromanaging partner. Let's go with that.
I would probably call it the reverse boss.
Yeah, the rose. I like it.
Sounds good. I like the ring of it.
Yep, it is ringing in the ears already. I think somebody else also asked a question.
So I think yeah, we can take this as last question. We are overshooting time.
Yes. So Margarita Singh is asking, there are a lot of things companies are doing for blue collar people, but still the attrition rate is so high. What are the things they are expecting? So
I
I
think
think
one of the biggest causes for, or the biggest reasons for attrition amongst blue collar workers is the pay, right? Uh, a jump of 2%, 3%, they're drawing a salary of 15,000, someone gives them 15,500 per month, they jump, right? I think that's one of the biggest reasons. And unfortunately, that becomes a decision that has to be commercially considered by every company.
But
So,
Harshvardhan, do you think tech can help there in attrition? We have addressed few concerns there, but here where they get a jump easily, like a Zomato or a Swiggy, if we take it as a delivery boy, Swiggy gives them 5% hike, they'll go. But do you think tech
right.
can really help there?
You're saying to reduce the attrition or
Yeah.
to, okay. With the larger picture, yes, right? So, like I told you about how we built an ecosystem where we give a lot of importance to the individual. We use tech platforms for communication with each individual, right? Thankfully, because of things like WhatsApp and like Ruchika was mentioning, Slack, that communication has become a lot easier, right? To let them know that they are an important part of the team, that the work that they're doing is valued. keeping like those are the larger things that we would put in mind or keep in mind when we are trying to address attrition. But at a more transactional level, like if you have someone saying 10 people come and stand at your doorstep tomorrow saying, a XYZ company has given me a better package and all 10 of us are moving, I don't think there's any way we can address that through technology.
True.
Yeah. So like, when this whole pandemic situation happened, we actually gave the offer to our team that before lockdown. So what happened is 1 month, I think 15, 20 days before lockdown actually happened, the first month, so like this
Harshvardhan, we are losing you. We can't hear you.
might happen. So we actually, gave, and if you want to, really explore moving to another place. Okay, we'll just try that again. Is this better?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. So around like this beginning of March 2020, about 3 weeks before the formal lockdown announcement happened, we actually gave the option to our team that if you guys want to consider moving out, look for another opportunity, we'll help you right now, because if you want to do it right now, you should do it. Otherwise, next few months are really going to be difficult for everyone. And we don't know if we'll be in a position to even pay full salaries and all that, right?
Yeah.
And to our surprise, out of a team of about, at that time, we were about 45 people,
Mm-hmm.
one person said she's going to move out. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
else decided they're going to stay. And the feedback we got was because you have always, kept us open communication with us. You've helped us through our tough times, not just through, in words, but also in actions. So those kind of things where we use technology as the platform for all forms of communication
So
is
you
the
mean,
reason why we feel
yeah.
that people actually wanted to stay back and not move out at that time.
So you mean a
Right?
grievance redressal cell, kind of an option where people
Yes,
know
exactly.
that, there's someone monitoring it actively, where their
Exactly.
issues are resolved. So they feel that, they're part of the
Yes.
system rather than going ahead, proving themselves again and stuff.
Right. Right. Absolutely. That played its role as well. No doubt about that.
Okay. So I think this brings us to the end of the session. And I believe we had a very power-packed. And I'm really, really thankful to Harshvardhan and Ruchika sharing wonderful pieces of information from their own experiences, which is, of course, always priceless, invaluable in nature for anyone to learn. As that's why we read books, right? So we can actually inhibit from that. And I'm sure people who attended today had good takeaways today. And we hope you guys enjoyed it thoroughly with us too. So thank you so much for coming in and helping us out with this.
Thank you, Divya, Neha, and the entire Quest team and the Billion Careers team for having us over. Really appreciate it. Thoroughly enjoyed, and I hope all the attendees had a good time. And I mean, my team keeps saying I bored them a lot by talking, so I hope that was not the case with you guys.
Not at
Thank you
all.
so
So much.
much,
Thank you so much.
Harshavardhan. Thank you, Richika. Thank you, Divya.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you so much,
guys. See you.
Jessica.
Good evening, everyone.